Wait a second.
Whew!
If just one thing, and I guess patrons are listening to me criticize you right now in real time. Well, I just want to say, Miss Paper Shuffles, if you could try not to do so. The Modern Girls is just a paper shuffling fest on your end, and it's not a big deal if I'm talking because I can just cut your audio. But as you're talking, it sounds like you're with Norm Macdonald at the Saturday Night Live news desk, just shaking your papers around while you deliver.
I am. That's how it is.
Commentary on Modern Girls.
I have to get another notebook. Haunted Honeymoon is gonna. This is the end of this notebook. So.
Oh, and it's got our stickers on there and everything too.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to get new stickers. I say when we go to Philadelphia, we take all our old stickers and just leave them at the bar if that's where we go.
Yeah.
And we'll get some new ones. Oh, also, I do want to tell you, I am not saying someone you know purchased this, but I get alerts when stuff that like shirts and the stuff we put on TeePublic. I get alerts through email when people buy stuff. So every now and then someone will buy a sleepaway camp item, and I get it. Like, people are on there searching for sleepaway camp. We actually sold a couple.
And we've got it.
We actually sold a couple things with our logo on them and not to us. So I got an alert yesterday, and I was just like, who is... I'm not saying someone you know is buying you this gift, but someone bought a T-shirt that said, "I'm Magic's bitch" on it with a picture of Schmendrick. I don't know who's buying this. I mean, it's weird that I put this whole thing together and I put it up almost as a joke, like no one would want this, and someone bought it.
Why would they buy it for me, though? Maybe they bought it for their own self.
No, I know.
Oh, you know who bought it.
No, I don't. No, I'm just saying... It's so strange that anyone would buy that. I only assume it has to be for you. I don't know, because you're a fan of The Last Unicorn.
I am, but I'm not the last fan of The Last Unicorn.
I know.
Many people can relate to that quote.
Really? Because First of all, it has to be someone who listens to our podcast, because he never said that in that movie. And it's almost as though we're attributing the quote to him as dialogue from the film. So clearly, if one of you patrons did this, I'm just so curious as to who bought this. I shouldn't like this.
So you want the buyer to come forth, basically.
Yes, I do.
But not for negativity.
No,
because you're
not
curious.
for negativity, because I am just so amazed by that and excited about that. And also, if you're wearing this shirt in public, can you please take a picture? Because
your picture, yeah.
Yes.
Take and tag.
Yes.
Take
Yes.
us and tag us.
Yeah, we only had one person who bought an Angela mug to post a picture. But if anybody else out there bought stuff, post pictures. We'd love to see. And I'm just talking to our patrons right now. Like I don't know that it's any of you, but you know.
But likely, it's a more likely chance that it would be a patron.
Sure,
they're more invested, literally, in the show.
Definitely.
So
and patrons
they might be more
don't feel some sort of obligation to buy stuff. Like, you are already Patreoning us. Tell friends to buy stuff, I guess.
There you go.
Or just tell people to listen to us or Patreon us, whatever. The end.
Whatever.
Oh,
what's this mug?
It's meowgical again.
It's the meowgical. Excellent. So meowgical. I have this donut mug, and look how, I don't know if you could see this. So it's a Dunkin' Donuts mug, and do you see the donut man? Like, he's got like weird
He's just a man made of donuts.
Legs. Yeah, but like a coffee cup for midsection here.
What's he holding?
And like, it's a tray of donuts.
Oh, okay. So it's like a cannibal, kind of.
I guess, unless he's serving them. Maybe he's serving them.
Well, still, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know. What are the donuts that are longer? Because, like, his arms and legs are, like, long donuts.
Bear claws?
Oh yeah, maybe they're bear claws.
Don't know.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Anyway, those are our mugs.
Again, patrons, you're paying for this. Don't forget. No one else is getting this content. No one else has ever heard anything about the meowgical. Oh my god, I can barely say it because I always cut that out. Should we?
Yeah.
I kind of.
You want to talk about your feelings about this movie first?
I do want to
put those out in the open.
Yeah. This,
Before
as
you
I told you,
movie?
because.
Yeah. All right, first let's just say this movie is hard as fuck to find.
Well, okay. Yes, it is hard to find, but there is a Blu-ray available. You can you can easily purchase this movie. I didn't even curiously look into if there are any special features or anything, but yeah, I didn't like this, and this was sad. It was sad. Like sometimes I'm upset about a movie being bad or me not enjoying it or puzzled by the fact that it was made. Like this just made me sad, and I think it was just because I hoped that Gilda Radner would have been in something better.
You know, you had
maybe
said that to
you
me
loved
before
it.
I even watched it. No. I felt the same sadness as you did when it was over. I thought, what a waste of all the great talent that they had. And I was sad that it wasn't more. That it just wasn't more. It was very, very bland. It was like getting.
Yeah. There were just long stretches where I was like, this isn't interesting. This isn't funny.
No, they didn't use anybody's real funny to the max like they should have.
I have to say, there is one scene.
There's some scenes. There's
one scene in particular where I kind of couldn't keep it together because I was really laughing. Like I had such a great time with just, let's call it the leg scene. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, the leg scene was a great one. Yeah,
but
that was a good one.
Man, is that late in this movie? And then it goes back to being just as bad afterwards.
I thought about, especially it's written by Gene Wilder, the movie, and I thought, well, maybe if this was done like as a stage show and then these actors all were in it and you went to New York and you saw this performed as a like little mystery like theater show, then very engaging and very fun and funny, and because there were aspects of it that reminded me like of a theater performance, you know, like a. So if it was that, then I think it would have been more. I mean, then we wouldn't be covering it, obviously, for our podcast because it wouldn't be a movie. But then I could see where it had some merit and where it was enjoyable and where you'd even say, look at the, like, Radner. And because this is, I forget how long they were married for, but this is obviously one of their first little films together.
This is
when
their
they were a couple, and you could see.
film, and this is her last film. This is it. Yeah. I mean,
she didn't do many, right?
No, she didn't do many. She didn't do many. And it was around this time when she started having like issues, cancer-related issues during the filming of this. But, oh my God, I don't know. This movie, first of all, this movie, I have seen it before and I had no idea. Until I started watching it. Yeah, this made the rounds on HBO. But I recognized the first about 20 minutes of this, nothing after that. So even as like a 11, 12-year-old, I was like, I'm out. Like I knew there was a werewolf. I knew it was a radio show. And it was kind of like when they showed up at the castle, I was like, no, now I have no idea what's going on. I've never seen this before. But I had seen all that early stuff.
Maybe you faded out after. I mean, because it is. So it's a weird, not weird, but it's a different kind of premise where they're a couple that do a radio show together.
Yes.
And the radio show is the titular Haunted Honeymoon, right? Or is that just one episode of their radio show?
Don't know. Nobody ever explains really what's happening.
No.
He seems to be a star, like a radio star.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to be a star.
No, she's well. The cops later, when he's dancing with the dead body, and he says that it's her, the cops are like, "Oh," but you're right. He's
Right.
like the star, and she's sort of like, you know.
It's
But
a
she's
bad
still a
movie.
star,
This is a
too,
bad
'cause
movie. This is a bad idea. It's very weird. Why are we in the 1930s? We don't play with that idea at all. It's just kind of. And I read interviews with Gene Wilder and Gilda Radner because I was so curious. I was just so curious about this. And in all of his
Yeah.
interviews, he was just like, I always wanted to make one of these old Gothic movies. Like, I love
Yeah.
the old castle, the old horror films. I love the old dark house. I love, the old. I wish there was a recommendation episode because the old 1940s Beauty and the Beast, this movie totally rips that off many times. And, Gene Wilder talks about this the whole time, but it's just like he doesn't talk about it being a comedy. It's clearly a comedy, but it's not. I don't know what this movie is.
It's interesting. I didn't read the interviews, but that's what it felt like. It felt like something that Gene Wilder and then Gilda agreed to do. Just kind of play out like, let's just see how this goes. I wanted to try this.
Right.
It's like me saying like, I've always wanted to plant a vegetable garden, and then I get like 2 zucchinis and I'm good. Like, it's not really a
Right.
big thing,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really compare vegetable gardens to movies, but whatever.
Right.
It felt like something that Gene Wilder just wanted to kind of do. He had some friends that were like, yeah, we'll join in. Dom DeLuise was like, yeah, I'll dress in drag. I'm down. And in a lot of the chemistry between Gilda and Gene was adorable and seems very genuine, obviously, because it is. And so that's nice to see. But it also literally felt like that's how they talk to each other. Like, I think they call each other kitten or babe or something like that. Whatever
Right.
their little affectionate names were for each other.
Sure.
I felt like that's probably how they refer to each other. Even when they're in the car and singing with each other, I'm like, I bet that's what they did when they hung out in like real life.
I could see that, sure. But the other
yeah.
thing is, like, I understand, like you're saying, this is probably a passion project for him, let's call it.
Yeah.
And but nobody seems to be, other than Dom DeLuise, who I have to say, he is simultaneously the best and worst part of this movie because that character is the worst character. Like, I was like, this is ridiculous.
And does it make sense?
No,
totally.
it makes no sense.
And then who are all those other couples? Who's Susan and her
don't know.
magician husband?
Don't
like,
know.
who
And
are
who's
they?
that old lady who's suddenly there? And I was like, I was taking note of all the characters, and I went, who's this old lady? Is she
Yeah.
married to the executor? Did she even walk in the door?
Yeah.
But anyway, Dom DeLuise, for as stupid, like utterly stupid as that character is, when they sat down for dinner and he is just like, he's crushing it. Like, he is just like, I'm going to do this. As dumb as it is, I'm going to knock this out of the park. And I was on board then. I was like, this is the best character in this movie. And it is also the absolute stupidest part of this. But I also feel like it's a comedy. So why isn't everybody else doing this? Like, why isn't everybody else
why is everybody
sort
else?
of over the top and ridiculous? And I would be more into something like that. But Gilda Radner's just kind of walking around, playing it straight, not making jokes.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad with her.
Yeah.
Now, this is later in her career, like you said, later in her life. But there's so much more you feel like she can bring to a character, and she kind of plays like, she does a little shadow puppet action, and
Yes, right. There's a lot of Donald Duck voices. Because
Yeah,
right after she
yeah.
does that, Gene Wilder's doing the same
they're
thing when he's
yeah.
making out
And
with
again,
a male
I
corpse.
feel
And I'm
like-
like, what? Why are we doing this twice?
And how he doesn't realize the male corpse that's like at least 200 pounds is not the frail, thin,
I don't know.
120 Gilda. I don't know.
And this movie's, it's also bizarre that it is, I'm assuming PG. There's no way this isn't
Oh,
PG.
yeah, there's no...
Because even when he reaches down under the blankets of this corpse and then he seems shocked, I'm like, okay, there's going to be some great penis joke now. And he's like, oh, you're so cold. And I'm like, oh, no, you're missing opportunities for hilarity. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you're so cold. Let me warm you up. And I'm like, it's a man. Like, his legs have to be hairy or something. Why aren't you making the obvious joke here?
He's a bigger guy than she is as a woman. He's a
He is a
chubby
large-
man. And she's a thin woman. And how did you not know?
I don't know. And that brings up the other thing. Like, why does this larger man have to be the one to die? Why couldn't it just be a thin actor at the beginning of this die? Like, why?
And I love that he's cross-dressing. He's like...
yes.
He's the cross-dressing cousin.
And that's the other thing. They're making these hilarious cross-dressing jokes about, isn't that weird that their guy dresses like that? And I'm like, Dom DeLuise is wearing a dress in this scene. I mean, is that what I'm supposed to be thinking of? Is that the joke? Because I just thought it was can you imagine a dude putting on a dress? Like, isn't that crazy? This movie is... I now, not that I didn't understand before, but I do think that this is a perfect example of a movie that is just tone deaf. I don't think Gene Wilder knew what he was doing. And it's weird that it's written and directed by him.
Yeah.
And like I said, the best part of the movie is him playing with, I mean, I know it's not a corpse's legs, but pretty much a corpse's legs. And he did that same thing in what's the Frankenstein movie? Why can't I think of it?
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein. Yeah, he has a corpse, but it's with an arm that time. And he's like rubbing the hands together and he's blowing in them. And he's like, it's so cold out tonight. I do actually think it's better in this movie. Like, I love how he has to keep knocking that butler out with a piece of wood.
And when he sits, I like how he sits and perches himself on the legs when he's talking.
And when the legs are just flailing about and he just starts snapping his fingers and singing a song.
Yeah.
Like, I was really laughing so hard at that scene, which made me even more sad that the rest of the movie isn't that.
Not at all. And confusing. We get introduced to these characters. We could use less of them. Like there's this. Are we going through it, or are we just going to talk about?
I don't know, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this patrons only episode because we're done. No, we should go. We should go through it. I mean, there's, we can glide through this thing pretty easily, but I do think it's important to say, like you said, like start to introduce these characters because there's no reason for any of them. Why does that guy's eyes glow like that? Is he a monster or is
I don't know.
That's so weird because
I don't know.
And why is Gene Wilder clearly insane at the beginning of this movie where he just stares off into space and he starts howling, but it's part of the radio show, but maybe it's not. Is it? Yes. Twist ending. This is stupid. Like, it's so dumb.
Yeah. Well, so he's okay. So these two do a radio show together called the titular Haunted Honeymoon. Can
I just interject real quick before you start this? Because they do start with a cold open, which is the camera pans across this giant castle and a guy falls out the window, like leans out the window with a knife in his back. And like the moment this happened, the moment he looked up and addressed us, the audience, and was like, oh, it's not what you think. And then dies and then goes, well, it's kind of what you think. I was like, oh no, this movie's going to be terrible. Like immediately I was like, this is a terrible way to start this. Because then the camera pans over and we see a werewolf. And like
a terrible werewolf too.
Terrible werewolf.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox.
Terrifying.
Michael J. Fox and his Monchichi dad could dance circles around this werewolf. I mean, we find out that it's a mask, so I get it. But even at the end, is it a mask? Because at the end there's a werewolf. Anyway, now we're into the movie. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, like you said, Gene. So they do this radio show, and part of it is this story they're telling about this haunted honeymoon and this man that might be becoming a wolf.
Yeah.
He knows by the fact that he can't say words with a W. right?
Right.
That's one of the reasons.
Yes. He can't say words with a W. But as they're putting on this show, Gene Wilder is supposed to say words with W's, and he can't. And everyone around him seems very concerned.
Yes.
And my whole thing was like, I was like, is this the radio? Like, shouldn't he be doing this? Is this?
Yeah,
is
I wasn't
he a
sure.
werewolf?
Isn't this
Like,
what his? I thought this. I'm like, isn't that what his character on
yes.
the radio show is supposed to be doing? He's not. But then they were like, and then so it's a radio show, so they're doing all these sound effects like light, like thunder and like creaky doors, whatever. And Gene Wilder keeps getting very scared about them.
Yes.
And everyone's concerned about how scared he is about it, and they really feel like he's a bit on edge. It turns out that he is about to get married to Gilda.
Yes.
I don't remember their names.
Neither do I. I wrote them
I
down
wrote down
later.
Gilda and Gene.
Yeah, I wrote his.
I think
his
he's
name
Larry.
His name is Larry. I don't know
Yeah.
what her name is. I
Vicky,
wrote her.
maybe?
I think it is Vicky. You're right. Larry and
Yeah.
Vicky. Yeah.
Yeah. So we find out that they're about to get married, and everyone kind of thinks that maybe he's getting a little nervous,
Right. Yes.
about their pending nuptials. But all of a sudden, a psychologist comes, or
also,
psychiatrist.
yeah, who is also his uncle.
The abbot, right? Because he's an abbot.
Yeah, and like they do weird things like visually, and this never comes back. Is when his uncle goes into the guys who are in the booth, like the guys producing the show, and he's like, "Yes, he's super scared of something. So to cure him, I have to scare him again because that's the way hiccups work." Which okay, and then they like. There's a close-up of his head, and like on his forehead is projected this castle. And then it kind of fades out.
Yeah.
And then he even says something weird like, "I, Paul Abbott, promised to cure him." And I was like, Paul Abbott, is that like a famous psychiatrist from the 30s? Like, I had no idea.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
why is
Do
he
we
saying his
supposed to
name
know
like
this?
that? Why is this so important? And also, I love how during this radio show, at one point they're like, "And let's go to commercial." The door busts open and they give an interview during a commercial break to a bunch of reporters.
Yeah. About their pending wedding, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, doesn't he have a problem in the interview with his W's? Maybe not.
No, he doesn't. But he does stare off into space several times during this interview.
And worries about his necktie because he's constantly like, "Is my tie straight?
Is my tie straight? Oh, your tie looks fine. I know it's fine, but is it straight?" All of this comes to nothing. Like
No, it does. The tie thing comes to something.
When does the tie thing come to something?
Because
I think you can spoil it for our listeners. No, honestly, I'm just curious.
He has, at the very end of the movie, he has some kind of flashback before, so to spoil
my
it,
God,
they do get married in the end. But they have a flashback to when Gene Wilder was a kid, and I guess his mom was getting married to his stepdad.
What is this all about? Yes.
Very random. Very random. And this is why he's got the fear of the wedding day. Not because he doesn't love Gilda or Vicky, because on his mother's wedding day, he watched his mother get struck by lightning. Like straight on, like she was at the altar about to get married, and lightning comes through the church window and strikes her dead.
Through the window. Something I did not know that lightning, much like a tree or a telephone pole, smashes through this window. Like the window explodes from this lightning, but it's not as though the lightning hits the window and stops. It continues on. Like, and also,
but
yeah, go ahead.
His tie isn't straight. Something about his tie, even when he was a kid. That's why it's all related.
Oh my God, I hate this so much.
There's your loop.
And that's another part, because when the big reveal happens at the end of this, I was like, wait a second. So they're putting on this radio show, and I guess somebody comes on as like, 37 years ago when he was a boy, here's what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? This is all explained because I could buy most of what happens in this movie, most of what we're seeing on a radio. I can almost buy it. But there's also so much that happens in this movie where there's no dialogue. Like, people are just moving around and running between rooms. How do you do that on a radio show? I hate it. I hate it so much. I just, oh, all right, go ahead. So they have to go somewhere to scare him because that's how psychiatry works.
Yes. So their plan is to go back to the house he grew up in, this haunted mansion that Gene Wilder spent his childhood in, I guess.
Yeah, and she knew nothing about. I love their relationship too because she's like, "This is where you grew up." Yeah, I lived my whole life here. Yeah, duh. And she's like, "What? Wait, you're from..."
She has no idea.
Yeah, you lived in you grew up in a castle, and that never came up.
No, not one time in their little...
Also, the other thing about this Butler not knowing who he is at the beginning and then suddenly knowing who he is, I hope that would like come in and out throughout the movie, but it doesn't. It's just a quick gag
so when
at
they
the
first
start.
meet, they get to the house after this fun little road trip the two of them take, and the butler, who's got insane eyebrows.
That guy's eyebrows are amazing. Like those are the old man eyebrows I want.
You aim to have? Yeah, there's every hair on his body just when he got old just became an eyebrow. That's what it is because it's but
he enjoys
when they
he enjoys the sauce too, which that's probably other than the leg part of this movie, the interaction between he and the maid, I kind of enjoyed their back and forth.
Oh yeah, the angry maid.
Yes.
Well, and I do enjoy. So his thing is, so when they first arrive, he is like, I don't remember. He doesn't remember who Gene Wilder is.
Yes.
He's playing like, oh, okay. But then he does remember him. He does also play like he can't hear very well, but then Gene Wilder tells him for some reason that Gilda can't hear very well. So that joke keeps playing because the butler will randomly shout things at Gilda Radner.
I do like when he yells, "Does she want champagne?" Just screams it right in her face in front of a bunch of people who don't understand what's happening, and they all just stare at him.
Yeah, he just chooses random times to just shout at her because she's hard. But he does, when they first meet, he doesn't know him, and then later he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're here!" And Gene Wilder never addresses like, maybe your memory's going. He's just kind of like, "Yeah, I've been here." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know. I would have had your bed made for you. All good."
It's also a weird thing because when Gene Wilder shows up, when the two of them show up, and the butler doesn't recognize him, he asks him who he is, and Gilda Radner goes, "Is he kidding?" And suddenly the butler just goes, "Mr. Kidding." And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Nobody introduces themselves as, "Is he kidding?" What? How did he? I don't. And that doesn't go anywhere either. He calls him Mr. Kidding one last time before he recognizes him, and that's dropped as well. Because
There's a lot of silly play on words like that. Like later on with the... we'll get there. But there's a lot of silly play on words that they do that I guess is just Gene's little humorous writings.
Yeah.
Because
there are tiny little things like when he and Gilda go upstairs right after this, when they go to their rooms, and he goes,
they have to sleep in separate rooms.
Yeah, they have to sleep in separate rooms. And when he says to her, he says, "If there's any problems, just scream." And she just screams in his face and then goes, "I was just practicing," and then gives a little smile. And I went, if that should work, that can work. It doesn't, but it should. Like, I don't know what's happening where certain things just aren't working the way they should in this movie.
Yeah. The beats fell off or something. So they arrive at the mansion. Oh, there's also, we find out that Aunt Kate, who is Dom DeLuise, dressed in drag, is writing her will or is going through her will, right?
She's changing her will or just changed it. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's very important, but it doesn't matter. She's talking to the executor of her will, just some old guy who's there as well.
We have some other characters that show up. His brother, I think it's Gene's brother that shows up with a girl who we find out was Gene's or
that's not
Larry's
his brother. That's
ex-girlfriend.
his cousin.
Oh, his cousin?
Because at the end of this, as he's like trying to kill him when they have their fight and he's punching him, he
Yeah.
keeps going, yeah, Cousin Larry this and Cousin Larry that. And I was like, why are you making me want to watch Perfect Strangers right now?
I know. You're like, Balky, leave it.
Yeah, that's his
Oh, well,
cousin.
the cousin
I
shows
think
up.
the guy with the werewolf eyes or the glowing eyes is his brother, right?
Is he the one that tries to kill?
No,
Is
it's
hanging Gilda? You know when Gilda's flying as a? Is he the one holding on to
no.
the
That's
strings?
that
No.
is who's revealed to be the bad guy. That's the cousin. That's
Oh,
the
yeah, okay.
Because he's trying to. Okay, all right. No, the glowing eyes guy is just there, so we're like, I'm sure he's
the
evil-
magician.
right? He's a magician because when he shows up and his staff, his like walking stick is floating around.
Yeah.
I was very excited. I was like, does this guy have magic powers?
What's gonna
Like,
happen?
This is
Yeah.
amazing. He seems to be hypnotizing people with his eyes. He's making stuff
Yeah.
float all over the place. He must be magical. He's just a shitty magician, but his eyes glow for some reason.
Glow. His eyes have this weird, scary glow about him.
Yeah.
He glows when he's at the front door. The maid, I think, so we have a butler with incredible eyebrows and a maid who.
Why don't we just take a second just to go through the cast of characters, just so that we can
I
keep
get
track?
confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
Larry and Vicky, Gene Wilder, and Gilda Radner.
There's Aunt Kate. That's Dom DeLuise.
And Kate Stone DeLuise.
There's these are the ones I know. There's the butler. I don't know his name, but
The
just
butler and the maid.
There's the maid. Her name is Rachel.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, I wrote that
Okay.
down. And the rest, there's a Susan. That's the magician's wife.
That's the
Am I right?
the magician and his wife. They seem to be a well-off couple. I mean, they do say that they have money problems, but she's like, have you been gambling again? How much did we lose? Blah, blah, blah. They look evil and they feel evil. And
Yeah.
you're supposed to
Yeah, they
think that
feel shady.
the dog hates
the
that
dog
woman.
barks at her. Yeah, the dog doesn't like Susan at all.
Yes.
The scruffy little Benji dog that
Right.
they have. Yeah.
So then there's the old executor of the will, who we mentioned. There's the psychiatrist, who we saw earlier.
Does he bring a girl with him, a wife?
I don't
or
know, because then
baby?
there's that random old lady.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's his lady.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's the random old lady who like sits next to Gilda Radner at dinner and then is kind of gone from this movie. Like, is she even with them at the end when everybody's running around and doing stuff?
Oh, when they're outside in the foggy night.
My goodness. Yeah. So
I
those
don't
are the
think
people
so.
in this movie, and they're all in a castle. Everybody has separate rooms. I did kind of like the frisky lady who's all into Gene Wilder. I thought that her
Yeah.
character was a little bit fun. Other than that,
that's
I don't know.
And none of the other actors are like, I didn't know or recognize any of them than the three. Then DeLuise. And then there's the cops. There's the two cops.
Oh sure, yeah. There's
that come in.
there's the two cops. It is. It does feel like a stage play. You're right. There aren't a whole lot of characters, or I mean, oddly enough, I feel like there's too many characters, but there aren't a whole lot. Everything takes place in a single location. Yeah. Why isn't this just a
Imagine
play?
if you got tickets to see this as a like Broadway show
Sure.
or off Broadway, whatever, as a stage show, and if you either like watching it present day, you knew it was written by Gene Wilder,
Yeah.
or at the time, if you knew that Wilder and Radner were in this stage show,
Yeah.
I mean, I think then it would have been a hit. And so goofy and fun, and although a lot of Gilda's, even her reactions, that's besides that she was a comic genius, but played in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Some of her like humor in this movie would have not fallen as flat.
Yep.
You know.
No, I agree. It's a shame that we already did our Q&A episode. The how would you change one of these movies to make it better?
Oh,
This would
yeah.
be an easy answer. Make it a play. The end.
Make
Done.
it a play. That's where it should have been. But it didn't.
Dom DeLuise, they all go to their separate rooms and they all get ready for the evening. For some reason, like a rubber snake pops out of a drawer. Gene Wilder freaks out about it.
Is this when he's on top of the moose?
Yeah, it's clearly not a real snake. Are we supposed to
No,
think it
well,
was
he's-
real? Like,
No, I think that we're supposed to think he's just very on edge, right? Now he's in the house, and he can't avoid this, like, these nerves that come over him.
Yes.
And she even says, like, just don't, when you go to bed, don't worry. And she, even though they're in this, like, scary mansion house that, she's never been in, she says to him, if you need anything, I'm just a couple of doors down. Like,
she's way down the hall, though. It's not like their rooms are next door to each other. They're at opposite ends of that long hallway.
Mm-hmm. The long hallway with the billowing curtains. There's some scenes with the curtains.
Beauty and the Beast. Folks, if you have not watched the Beauty and the Beast movie from the 40s, it's amazing. Watch it. The candlesticks that have the arms, that's that's right from Beauty and the Beast. That happens in that, and the curtains and everything looks so much better in Beauty and the Beast. Also, the Beast's hands in that, like he's a beast, so he has to go out and he has to kill things, like he has to kill deer and eat them because he doesn't have like dishes that make him food like in the Disney version.
Oh, like in the Disney one, right?
But after he kills something, he'll come into the castle and his hands are always smoking, like smoke comes off of his hands. It's weird and it's awesome.
Oh. I want to watch this movie instead.
My kids wandered into the room when I was watching it. They were enthralled. They sat and watched the whole thing, and it is in French and it's subtitled, and they loved it. Like I would just kind of like say, okay, here's what he's saying here, and I'd give them the gist of it, but there's not a whole lot of talking in Beauty and the Beast. It just looks amazing.
It's just action. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all.
Oh, there's your recommendation.
That's my recommendation. So they all come down to dinner, and this is when it's revealed to be Dom DeLuise. There is a scene early where she's talking to the executor of her will, and it's shot behind her as though we're supposed to think that this is an elderly woman. Clear, like her voice, it's just Dom DeLuise. Kind of trying to talk like a woman, and suddenly it's revealed that it's him. I love the slide down the banister.
Oh my gosh, this is his entrance.
Yeah,
he does it more than once. He slides down, and it's like a squeaky fart that happens when he slides down the banister.
It's so weird. It's so strange, and like he has them all go to dinner. And what does he say? I even have it. Oh, it's weird because he's like, I know one of you is a werewolf. And everybody looks at him like he's crazy.
Like, yeah. Because he's seen the werewolf. Oh, we do see a couple of like little things. We do see that there's some kind of creature, something's lurking outside the windows as we're meeting the characters.
It's a werewolf. Like we have seen at the beginning that it's a werewolf. Yes.
And we mentioned that the other woman in it, the cousin's girl that used to be the ex-girlfriend of Gene Wilder, she at one point she constantly tries to throw herself on Gene Wilder, and at one point she covers him in kisses. Yeah. And Gilda is like, why do you have lipstick all over your lips? And Gene Wilder claims that it's the maid that did it. And the maid is like, she's a plain Jane, kind of like, she looks like a, I don't know.
She's an old woman.
Jane.
Like she's an old lady.
Makeup.
Yes. And she's like old. Like
German
that's
lady.
the joke.
Like she looks like old. Right. And Gilda's like, what? And he's like, yeah, she can't keep her hands off me. I don't know why. And this is where the other wordplay joke comes in, because they meet when Gilda meets this other woman for the first time, which happens before the dinner. Yeah. Right before the dinner. The woman has this like lipstick on, and Gilda's like, what color is that lipstick? And the woman says it's passion color. And she goes, well, quit passion your lips around.
Yep. Okay. And listen, I'm sure Gene wrote that, and I'm sure on the page that was dynamite. And again, you have Gilda Radner delivering these lines. This should all be better, and it's not, and I don't know why it's not. But anyway.
I'll tell you why, because it's not in front of a live audience.
Yeah. Dom DeLuise says one of them's a werewolf.
But yeah, so...
And she also says,
and then
like,
whisks them off.
That's my favorite part of this movie, is when she's like, my brother, he was bitten by a creature, and suddenly he was very hairy. The werewolf in this room, may God strike you dead. Now let's have coffee and dessert. Throws the napkin on the floor and gets up and like runs out of the room. And that's the moment I was like, I'm in it just for this character.
Yes, that's
alone.
how I was like. But then, and then that's
having
said that, I agree. We don't see a lot of her
No.
otherwise. Like, there's not a lot. There's another scene. This is then. They whisk off to coffee and dessert. And then my other favorite scene, besides the leg scene, is... So even at dinner, Aunt Kate or Dom DeLuise loves Gilda. Thinks that Vicky is great. So they have this little dance that they do that's kind of like the Hokey Pokey. I don't know what song it is, but it's like you put this in, you put this out.
It's crazy.
Gilda plays the air trombone, and Gilda's wearing this shirt, this like ruffly dress shirt.
Yeah.
And Aunt Kate's outfit is more just like curtains. It's not very flattering or right. It's
I mean,
like
you're just trying to cover up Dom DeLuise somehow.
Yeah. They do this dance together that is a lot of fun. The whole time that the dancing is happening, Gene Wilder is Larry is getting freaked out because he's looking at the eyes. It's not just now the glowing eye guy. Like, everybody's kind of shifty and shady. And I think he asked a couple of times about his tie being straight.
Yep. Yeah. And it's not as though I didn't enjoy the dance. Like, the dance, it comes out of nowhere and it's kind of interesting.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, it feels like a late in the evening Saturday Night Live sketch, like not one of the great ones, but
right.
something is happening. You're killing time with something that's somewhat interesting, and you're allowing these two people just to kind of have fun.
And that's what it looked like, that these two were just, I don't know if this was an improv, like, here, you guys just, because it looked like they had a blast. I don't think it was
improv. Like, they have a routine down.
And it's it's fun, though. It's a fun little, but at the same time, it doesn't go anywhere but there.
And at this point, they do talk about, is it the executor? It's the executor's son. They do talk about this guy, and they're like, I saw him prancing around in a dress earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody does say, like, oh, he does a great impersonation of Aunt Ruth. And I was so excited. I was like, are we going to see Dom DeLuise in a dual role? Like, is he then going to... I didn't know it was the dead guy from the beginning. Like, at this point, I didn't know who this character was. And I was like, is he going to, like, come around the corner and we're going to have, like, a split screen interaction between the two? And it never happens. I was kind of upset.
Didn't go where you wanted
No.
it to.
And why? At the end of this dance number, does every character have to ask every other character if they are ready for bed?
They're ready for bed.
What is that?
Well, the lights go out
forever.
A storm happens or something happens where the lights go out, and because even Dom DeLuise is like, electricity is the devil's work. And then when the lights go out and they get candles together, one by one, each character goes, are you ready for bed? Are you ready for bed? Are you ready for bed? I don't know if that's an inside joke or dinner parties that maybe Gene Wilder was at.
Don't know.
Like the cue to get out. I don't know.
I can only assume it is. And why are you putting an inside joke in your movie? Like something that just you think is funny, because it's not funny, and it's
goofy.
Like, after a while, I was like, why are they? This isn't working. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop. End this movie right now. Just end it. Say,
stop right
listen,
now.
We tried. It's not working out. The end. Let's do something different. So the whole movie takes place over the course of an evening. Oh, speaking of modern girls, so everything that happens now happens at night. Once everybody goes to bed, the entire movie occurs.
Mm-hmm.
There is some fun in the hallway with that frisky lady, like, because Gilda goes into her room, and then Gene Wilder starts to walk to his, and the lady comes out and starts kissing him, and then Gilda, like, pops her head out, and then they're playing it off like nothing was happening. She chases him away,
basically, yeah.
And then he goes into his room. He goes into his room, and the frisky lady, like, walks out of hers and turns her back, and then turns right around, and Gilda Radner's standing there. I enjoyed that. It was fun. I don't know. And then we meet a werewolf in a basement in a wine cellar. Like, and who is this
the werewolf's
werewolf?
Getting paid off.
Because the guy is murdered. The werewolf. The thing is, we find out that the evil person, whoever the evil person is, who of course we find out later, wears black gloves, and everybody that comes to the door, everybody at this dinner party wears black gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, it's such a stupid plot. I guess that Gene Wilder, the will has been changed where Gene Wilder, I guess, will inherit everything once Aunt Ruth dies.
Mm-hmm.
So, whoever's wearing the black gloves hires a man to pretend to be a werewolf for no reason whatsoever.
Because the family's tale of werewolfness, I guess.
But then seems to be like, hey, werewolf, can you kill him now? And the werewolf's like, listen, that wasn't part of the job.
Yeah,
I guess I was just supposed to be a werewolf and run around. And then this person kills the werewolf. And then I guess he assumes the identity of the werewolf, like takes the mask off the guy and everything like that. But it's never explained who this werewolf is, because later on somebody's like, hey, who's that other dead body? Can I see who it is? And they're like, no, don't look under the sheet. I'm like, I want to know who this person is.
Who it is, yeah. Who is it? I don't know. We don't find out. It goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. The werewolf. Who knows?
I barely took any notes. I barely took any notes for this, too. Like, we're almost to the end of my notes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, this is when, after the werewolf gets paid in the basement, then we see another little snapshot. That's when Gilda does her shadow puppets on the wall. Yeah. And then Gene Wilder goes to bed, and he finds first he finds he's in bed with the cross-dressing dead guy. And freaks out, runs out of the room, gets the butler. The butler's like, what are you talking about? He's not there. And sure enough, the bad guy was looking through some kind of peephole in the bedroom.
Yeah, the bad guy also had a knife, come out.
Yes.
And my whole thing was like, if your plan is to murder him, why did you put a corpse in the bed? Like, don't you think that would scare him and make him leave the bed?
I think that was something they talked about with the werewolf, because it was like, the werewolf killed the one guy, the cross-dressing guy, and then it was like, well, where'd you put his body? And he's like, I put him in one of the bedrooms. Well, which bedroom? And he can't remember, so he was put in Gene Wilder's bedroom.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't want to go down the road of like plausibility with this movie, because we do find out that it's all fake and nothing's happening, but. Like, there's miles of grounds around this thing. Like, people are being buried all over the place.
Why are you putting it in the house?
When you know a ton of people are coming over to stay.
Yeah. But the body then disappears. When Gene Wilder brings the butler back to see, like, look, there's a body. The body is gone. And the butler's like, see, it's just your imagination. So Gene Wilder lays back in bed, and then a man walks on his
Please explain to me how this happens. Please explain to me how this happens.
I don't know what this is. Is this like a zombie or another dead person? It walks on his wall, much like our friend in Breaking 2.
It's like Turbo. I wanted Turbo to like open a door, come in and start dancing. Because I was like, I can get into this because you can't. It's revealed.
So now there's this face.
There's no real werewolf. There's no real monsters. Like, none of this is real.
Well, who is this guy, though? There's this guy now.
Okay, here's the thing. And I think it's important for the audience to know this. If you've never seen this, first of all, don't watch it. Second of all, good luck finding it. Here's the thing that's happening. Most of the people who are here to try and scare Gene Wilder into not being a crazy person anymore.
Right.
Because everything is a trick.
Because he's got to get ready for his wedding.
Yes.
Right.
So my thought, I think, is that this is either the magician. I think it's the magician wearing the mask to try and scare him. Because we find out that the magician, his cousin, who turns out to be evil, the psychiatrist, Gina, Gilda Radner's in on it eventually. Like, everybody there, except for I think the butler and the maid don't know anything about this. Everyone is working to try and scare him. That's why there's a fake snake. That's why there's a monster walking on the wall. That's why there's a hand that pops out of dirt. Like, all of that is to scare him, but also someone is really trying to kill him at the same time.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Oh. And
Silliness.
why is there an arm holding a candelabra? Like, is that to scare him? Because if it's to scare him, it goes back to being a statue before he sees it move.
Yeah, he doesn't notice.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Nothing was thought through in this movie. It's crazy. I don't get it. But he gets very scared by this monster walking on the walls, as you would, because nobody can walk on the walls.
He puts his hands in it. It walks on the walls, and he's trying to convince himself that it's not real. He's like, because I could reach out and touch it, and it won't. And then he puts his fingers like in its eye socket, and then he's like
ears, and you hear like this squishing and stuff. And later it's revealed to just be a rubber mask, and I was like, why was it squishing then?
Because it's a rubber mask. So then he freaks out and he runs out of the room. And then Gilda is flying in a wedding dress outside.
Yeah.
And he's not nearly even as scared of that as you think he would be.
You know what? Do you want to hear something? I was going to say, because I read all the interviews, do you want to hear something that I found absolutely adorable? So they made this movie. And I guess when they got married, I don't know if they eloped or if it was just like a quick thing, no big thing, justice of the peace, whatever. And for this movie, they put her in this wedding dress, and she was like, I've never worn a wedding dress before. We got married. I wasn't in a dress. And she had people on set like do wedding photos where she and Gene like posed. And on set, they got all these wedding photos of her in the dress. So I thought that was kind of cute.
That's adorable. Yeah. It's very sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did they get her flying? Because she is flying in this.
She's flying, yes.
Because she's meant to maybe, I don't know. It's, again, supposed to scare him. She's in on it. He doesn't seem as scared.
No, because he just follows her.
Now we're outside. Is this the part of, now we're outside?
Yes.
No, not quite yet.
No, because he follows her out. This is with the candelabras, and after he sees her floating, he follows her outside after he walks through a mirror, too?
Oh, I don't know that I remember that.
All right, well, he looks and it's a mirror, and then the mirror fades to show the outside, and he walks right through again.
Oh yeah, that's what I was like. So wait, is he dreaming now?
Why is this magical?
What's happening?
Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah, I didn't know if now it was becoming a dream or if this was real.
Right.
But then he does. Now we get to your favorite scene because he rides some chute down to the basement and he finds the butler and a dead body.
Yes.
And the butler thinks he's the werewolf and thinks he killed this person. And so the butler starts to kind of beat him up, and then cops have come, and the cops go downstairs because they hear some commotion.
He's in this coal chute, so he's almost in like this box, and he knocks the butler out, and the butler's legs are dangled over the side, but he's standing on the other side of this. So he's standing, you see him from the waist up, and then you just see these tiny, the legs are so tiny.
Just like knees. They're like knee. It's like from the knee down. It's the calf. It's not the whole leg.
Right, yes. Yeah, and this is when the cops walk down. So this is what they're seeing.
And the cops, he starts shouting to himself, Gene Wilder, saying that he's rehearsing for...
Yeah, because the one cop is like, oh my God, you're so great on the radio. Like later on, he asks him for his autograph, which is kind of amusing. And, he's in awe of Gene Wilder. Like Gene Wilder can do no wrong. The other cop seems more suspicious, but Gene Wilder's just kind of like playing this off like, oh, I'm just rehearsing. Oh, did you hear me yell, I'm going to kill you? That was just me rehearsing for a play. And then the legs, because the legs of the butler who's knocked unconscious, I guess the butler starts to come too. And the legs like go up, like
spring up
by his ear, like something that only professional dancers can do. And he's like scratching the leg and rubbing them and stuff. But also then every now and then he'll pick up a piece of wood and swing it behind him, I guess repeatedly.
Knock him back out.
Repeatedly hitting this butler in the head. I think my favorite part of this, like I said, is when he's dancing, when the legs just start violently kicking and then he starts snapping. But also at one point he's just talking, like he's in the middle of a sentence and both legs fly up and he just goes, whoa. And every time it happens, he has to play it off like it's no big deal, like he's stretching or whatever, and then he has to continually club the butler. It's
entertaining.
It's
It's
very
one of the most
entertaining.
entertaining
Yeah.
parts. Yeah. Gilda then, so I think this was maybe supposed to be Gilda's like leg scene when she's stuck up on the strings.
Yeah.
And she needs to get down and she's kind of struggling being hung from these strings in the dress.
Yes.
But it doesn't come off funny. It's not her role really. Gene Wilder, you could see, like you said, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen this in Young Frankenstein. And you know, but it's really disappointing what it lacks from her, not because of her lack of trying. I think it's just because of what it is and what.
Yeah, and it's a shame too because I would imagine that since Gene Wilder wrote and directed this, and these two are married at the time, I don't think he's doing this on purpose. Like I don't think he's saying
no.
I don't think he's saying I'm the star.
I'm gonna make her look bad.
I'm gonna do all the like this is my film or anything, but. That's kind of how it comes across. Like, again, I don't think he's doing it intentionally, but that is what's happening. Her character is given nothing to do in this movie.
I agree. But it's not, again, it's not like she's doing a terrible job at it. It's just so mediocre that she is not a mediocre actress.
Yeah,
so you feel bad.
She's not doing a terrible job. It's just that, like I said, she has nothing to do. She has nothing to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So Larry gets in a fight with the werewolf down in the basement. He pushes a bunch of like shelves of wine onto him. The butler actually comes to at this point and sees that Larry is fighting with the werewolf. So he knows he's
not the werewolf.
Yeah, he's not the werewolf, and then we see that the werewolf like has this like secret passage or something behind a sink. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And now Larry's on to this, you know, the fact that all of this is fake because he wanders around outside and he sees that all the thunder and the lightning and all that stuff are just sound effects.
So foggy.
Yeah.
So many.
There are fake sound effects. There's a fake corpse outside. I don't know. And then he sees the butler because the butler's like, hey, dude, I know it's not you. I'm going to take this corpse. I'm just going to bury this dude. And you and I'll, we'll take on the werewolf together. And he's going to bury that guy and whoever the nobody is that was the werewolf that was killed. And then there's another bit where the cops show up and he has to pretend that he's dancing with his wife, who's just like an elderly corpse, like an old woman, kind of. Because
it's weird.
Yeah, I don't even want to go through this beat by beat, but we're almost done with it.
We're almost done. Yeah. You're almost there.
Right.
Yeah. That's a weird scene. The cops come back and they're.
It's another corpse scene. It's like, remember when he danced with the legs? Let's try and do that again. But now we have full bodies to play with.
Full body, yeah.
It's not
and it
good.
Goes, yeah.
It's not good because then the cops leave. The werewolf knocks out the butler and dumps Gene Wilder into a casket that's just sitting there.
Oh, yeah, but a casket with like a glass because Gene Wilder could see out.
You can see out. It just has a glass window.
Yeah, it's got like a window because dead people love to lay there and look up.
The only thing I can think is maybe around this time, maybe in the 1930s, this was something like, instead of having an open casket, maybe
you
this
had a
was
window casket.
Right. Maybe this was an option. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe your body got all mangled up or whatever, and they couldn't fix that.
Yeah,
but
so you just want to see your face.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know because I think it's just there so
just
that we
the
can,
moneymaker.
so that we can see that Gene Wilder's in here,
and Gene Wilder can see what's going on around him.
Right.
Which is mayhem, right? Isn't this when the people
this is where everybody's running around, and this is again, like you said, Gilda Radner's on wires. We find out that everybody's trying to scare him. Now at this point, the butler comes to, and he's like, "Oh, there's a real werewolf running around, and everything's terrible, and Gene Wilder's missing." And so now everybody's onto the fact that something serious is happening, and this dog. Sorry, we only talked about the dog because it barked at the lady who's supposed to be mean. This
Barked at
dog
Susan.
is the one
Yeah.
that saves Gene Wilder. Like, and this was another part of the movie where they're all standing around going, "Where's Gene Wilder?" And there is a freshly dug grave, right? Like they're surrounding this. They're all standing around it asking where he is, and the dog has to like dig down and find him.
And then they do. And then is he? Well, wait. Oh,
Gilda finds out what's going on, but
yeah.
if you want to get into that,
And he runs after her. Do they fight? No.
do you want me to
Oh,
take it?
she gets into that when the phone line is cut.
Yes,
That's
yes.
right. She goes into the house and okay,
Yeah.
can. Go ahead, do it.
Well, the only other character who I knew from this is Jonathan Pryce, who plays the bad guy, who plays like the the evil guy at the end of this. And it's funny, I looked through his credits and he's done so much stuff, but I just remember he used to do car commercials for a very long time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was around the same time that the head vampire from the Lost Boys, remember that older guy? He used to do Dodge commercials, and this guy for some reason did luxury car commercials, and that's where I know
They got
him
into
from.
cars.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he's in there, and he's like on the phone, like yelling at the cops, like, "I know you've already been out here, but there are 2 dead bodies. If that's enough to get you out here, blah blah blah." And he's yelling on the phone, and Gilda Radner, like, she drops something, so ducks down and sees that the phone isn't plugged in.
Yeah.
She's onto it, and
then he realizes that she realizes.
she plays it off really badly. Like, she doesn't go, "Yeah, you gave him hell. Now let's get back outside."
Yeah.
She stands there and stares at him for a very long time without saying anything, and then he knows
And
that
then-
she knows.
Yeah.
And then it's a chase. Why do they even talk about the vase? Like, why at the beginning of this movie is somebody like, "Oh,
Oh,
there's
that's
only
right.
3 of those around"? I was like, "Oh, it's going to end where somebody hits him with this vase." Nope, not at all. He gets shot. The bad guy gets shot by Dom DeLuise.
Bob Dom DeLuise, but she breaks the vase when
Yes,
she
it
shoots
falls
him.
out the window with him. The vase breaks. He's dead. And Jamie, do you want to? Oh, and there's a wedding. They do get married.
They do get married.
It's wonderful.
The cloud has pissed.
What?
The cloud has pissed.
I don't know
That's
what
what
that
Dom
means. Is
DeLuise
that a-
says. So
Oh,
when it's finally
yes.
said and done,
Right. Yes.
and like that's the big joke is, so they get married and everything seems to be okay, and the family, the cloud that was looming over this family of this werewolf tale has passed, and when Dom DeLuise says it, he says the cloud has pissed,
Yes.
and
what's the big
that's
reveal?
really funny.
What's the big
'Cause you can't
reveal
say
right
piss.
after this, Jamie? What do we find out?
Oh, about his mom? About the wedding?
No.
What's
Yeah.
the big reveal?
He discovered that his mom was that his mom had died, and this is the course of his
Yeah.
issue. This is when he's in the coffin, like dying, like taking his
Yeah.
last breaths before he's saved by a dog.
He's got a flashback, right? What is the big reveal?
The
the big ending
Go ahead.
reveal. Dun dun dun! This was all just a show.
And
All of it was a radio show.
I wrote in my notes, back at the radio show, wait, was this a show? I'm not sure it was. Was it?
I'm not sure
I'm
what it
asking
was.
myself these questions because clearly it is. But suddenly Dom DeLuise is there. Like, we didn't
Yeah,
see
he
him
was
before.
part of
None of these.
Yeah.
Jonathan Pryce, the bad guy, is standing next to Gene Wilder, and I'm like, what is going on right now? All these characters from the movie were just voice actors. They're all
Yeah.
there. We were listening to this. This was all just a stupid radio play. Oh,
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Well, Jamie, it's not it, because at this
No,
moment,
you're right, 'cause the
they're in
werewolf comes
they're
back.
in the car. A title card comes up that says "Almost the End." What are you doing? What are we doing in this movie? Why is
Come on, Doug was done with it already.
And we watched them like sing a little bit of a song in a car, turn the corner.
Yeah.
A guy in a trench coat's behind them. He turns around. He's a wolf. The end.
It's not over.
The end. This is this movie. I hated it. I hated this so much. This is the worst movie we've watched for Patreon, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it was hard too because it wasn't even like even discussing it. Even I didn't know, but I was like, I don't even think this is going to be as fun to discuss because it was not painful to get through in like a way that like Tron was,
right?
But painful in the sense of like what is like you saying like why, what is happening and why, and then sad like at the end of the movie I felt sad that I didn't get to see more Dom DeLuise, that I watched a Gilda Radner movie and I was disappointed in her performance, not because of her lack of effort, but because of what was written for her by her husband. Now, again, I thought it was kind of sweet at times to see the two of them together and their chemistry.
Yes.
I enjoyed Dom DeLuise. I kind of saw where it was going with this. I agree. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Here's the silver lining with this. It made me actually think of two 80s movies that I want to watch and two 80s movies that I think we need to do on this podcast.
Okay, good motivation.
One, Clue. Like this movie reminded me of Clue.
Oh yeah,
with the cast of characters that are so much more fun than everybody in this movie. And it's a movie that's just over the top, start to finish, super fun. And it also reminded me of Transylvania 5-6000 or 6-5000.
Oh yeah.
You got some Jeff Goldblum, some Gina Davis.
Yeah,
I think it's a bad movie, but that would
better.
be fun. I think that is a fun bad movie where this is just a nothing. Like this is just a stinker.
Well, and I wondered why. Because you said it's available on Blu-ray, but it's not. It's very hard to find otherwise. And I wondered if, like the estate of Gilda Radner or somebody like they hid it like so that it's not as readily available because they were like no. And she just had. There was a wonderful. If we did do recommendations, which I guess we kind of are doing.
Sure, why not?
There's a documentary about her that came out, Love Gilda, and it's wonderful, and it really gives you a nice. It's just really well done, and it's got a lot of her own personal like journal entries in it, and it's just she was a wonderful woman and a comedic genius, and none of that comedic genius is featured in this at all, and it's sad. It's very sad.
It is sad, and I
and
know
frustrating.
That, and it's hindsight because had she not had cancer and had she not died, like I think she died 3 years after this, something like that, 4 years, maybe 3 years, whatever. This would just be not like people wouldn't. I mean, people don't know about this anyway, but it wouldn't be her last movie. And I think that's the bad part of this, and that's the sad part of this is her last movie. If she had gotten to make another 3, 4, 5, if she was still like Steve Martin around today doing stuff, like I don't think this would be as disappointing for us as it was. But that's what made this very sad.
Mm-hmm. All right, so patrons, listen, Haunted Honeymoon, don't even waste your time. Okay,
don't waste your time. This movie was tough to talk about. I know that, and I've talked to you about how a lot of times I get very nervous before we do this because I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And it's never been an issue before. I feel like it was an issue this time. Like I really did not know what to talk about. And as we were talking, I'm like, I just want to be done with it. Like, I just want to get to the
That's
end.
how I was uncomfortable. Like, I'm the same, not the same. I'm especially when the movies are horrible, I'm almost excited to talk about how horrible the movies were. But this, I just wasn't looking. I was looking forward to watching it because I had never seen it. And I do love both Gilda and Jean and Dom, and I was like, this is like I know them, like they're my buds.
I mean, you refer to them by their first names, of course.
Of course.
What are you going to say, Mr. DeLuise?
No, nay. But yeah, I was dreading talking about it because I was like, oh, this wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was, if it wasn't even that it wasn't that good, it was disappointing because you wanted it to be better, and it could have been better maybe if Gene would have written with Gilda, but maybe he thought he had more time in life to do that, and like
Right.
it felt like, was he the only one that gave it a pass?
That's what I was wondering. How much, since he wrote it and directed it, did he finance this? Did nobody stop him? Did everybody just kind of say...
Did they think it was a good idea? Maybe
Right,
they all had like
exactly.
fun with it, and they were
Yes.
like, this is Gene's little, like you said, his little passion project. This is what he's into.
Right.
And maybe they thought and maybe she was feeling so out of it by this point that she was like, whatever, I'm doing. Can you imagine when you go to work every day with your husband? It's kind of nice, They were a very loving couple, so maybe this was that kind of bliss for them just because they got to be on set every day together and live out this little dream of his to make this kind of movie. And the fact that maybe it wasn't a very entertaining movie didn't matter to them because it entertained
I
them.
like to think
just
that she
making
was
it.
reading this script and was just like, this is terrible. I don't know how to tell him. There is no way I'm going to do this. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm in a wedding dress in this scene. All right, I'll do it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
you know what?
forget
We
it.
will figure this out.
I'll just keep my mouth shut about it. It's fine.
Listen,
it's fine.
I told him I wanted to wear a wedding dress. He said no. We never got our photos. I gotta do this. And if it's awful, it's awful. I'll get past it. I'll have the photos. Gene, this is great, honey. I love it. I am on board.
Babe, yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna call Dom tomorrow and see if he wants to do this.
And Dom was like, yeah, I love dressing in drag. Let's do it. And it was a done deal. Yeah, because like I said, nobody else in the cast was that well known. So, anyway.
Yep. Anyway,
yeah,
I think we talked about how bad this is for a very long time.
Yeah, we did.
Anyway, patrons, thank you so much for continuing to support us and for tuning into the regular shows, for listening to these. And we will see you again in 2 months. And every April 1st, you can expect a episode with a Saturday Night Live alum. I think that's kind of what we decided. We will try and choose better next time, but who knows? Even the bad ones are fun.
It was a learning experience. Now I know. Like I said, I hadn't seen this one.
Now I know
Now
never
I
to watch
know.
this again.
Next, and never recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
If they're like, what movies have Gilda been in? Well, whatever you do, you don't have to watch Haunted Honeymoon.
Yeah. And
That's all.
patrons get very excited because just as we have never watched a Gilda Radner movie before, never seen a Gene Wilder movie before, our next Patreon episode on June 1st is an action movie. And we don't do a whole lot of straight up guns and explosions action movies on this podcast, but I thought that will be our next, June will be our action month for Patreon.
Summer action.
Yes.
Love it.
So we are going to watch our very first Arnold movie. We have not seen Arnold on this podcast. We're going to watch our very first Alyssa Milano movie. And for people that know Arnold's filmography, they know what this movie is. For people that don't, we'll just leave you in suspense. Maybe Ray Don
Do you have
Chong
an Arnold?
is in it. What?
Do you have an Arnold impersonation that you do?
I don't.
Maybe you need to work on it till June.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll work on that. I have a long time. I have over 2 months to work on
there you
this. All right. Well, everybody,
All
thanks
right.
for listening. We appreciate your support, and we will see
do.
you. This is April 1st. I'm trying to look into the future. I'm trying to know what our next regular episode is. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
I don't have
We're
a calendar
recording
handy.
this.
I don't have my crystal ball handy. I can't tell
We're recording
you.
this in early March. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Just assume it's going to be something super fun.
Very enjoyable.
Right.
All right.
All right, everybody. We will
Thank you
talk to you next
again.
time. Yes. Thank you so much. And bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, you remind me of me when I was a little girl. You're a good girl. I can see in your eyes, not like the others. He's chosen wisely.
Thank you, Aunt Kate.
You're welcome. I know that one of you is a werewolf. I saw you in the garden this afternoon.
Don't be frightened, dear. She's a little bit eccentric.
Of course, I'm only speaking to the Abbott family. My brother John, from whom you are all descended, was bitten on the back of his neck by something that was half animal, half human. From that moment on, he was hairy, all over. I had hoped all these years that his disease would not be passed on, but now I see that it was. One of you is preying upon the fears of an old woman. Whoever you are, may God strike you dead. Now let's have coffee and dessert in the music room.